Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Exponential Potential Podcast. And this month is all about self-sabotage. And I've got a phenomenal guest with us. I'm absolutely honored to have him on our show, Tony Wang from Conscious Coaching. And welcome, Tony. Lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Jen. It's my pleasure to be here.
And Tony's calling in from San Diego. So looking very bright and sunny where you are.
Yeah. It's actually a little gloomy this month. We have this thing called June gloom where it comes out like twice this month. But yeah, I have like huge windows here, so it looks really bright, but no sun for days.
It looks really bright though, but it's such a gorgeous background, really nice and clean and spacious and calming. So today we're going to be talking about conscious business. And Tony Wang helps spiritual teachers and experts grow their online businesses. He's been building online businesses ever since he was a college student studying chemistry. And afterwards, he became a full-time entrepreneur and ended up building multiple 8-figure digital advertising businesses, working with brands like Uber, Lyft, King, HBO, and more. So that's pretty impressive, Tony.
Well, thank you. That was a very nice introduction there. I appreciate it.
And I'm really interested in, so going from chemistry to a online digital advertising business. How did that happen? That's quite the change in career, isn't it?
Yeah. So I went into chemistry not really knowing what I wanted to do, like most college students. Mm-hmm. My dad is a chemist. Right. He still is. So I just figured, hey, he can help me. That was like my only, and he nudged me a little bit. So that was my really, I was pretty interested in science, but there's really no rhyme or reason otherwise, other than it was just the easiest major to pick. But as I got deeper into it, I just realized it's not really my thing. Mm-hmm. I had to publish a paper for some research that I did. And through that experience, it was just like, I don't know if I can do this the rest of my life. And then I had a health crisis, which kind of led me down a spiritual path where like my whole world just got turned upside down. And through that, I just thought, you know what, screw it. Life is too short to do something that I don't want to do. And I feel like it's kind of my parents' expectations and not really what I want to do. So I just want to try starting my own business and went down that route.
So what did you, how did you sort of fall into advertising? Or was that your first sort of step, or was there, I would imagine there was quite a lot of spiritual growth and awareness involved in that journey as well?
Yeah, it was actually. I tried a lot of different things online, and I had some experience with selling a book online. When I was in college, I published a book on an ebook on skateboarding, and I sold that online. It did pretty well. It helped me pay for my tuition, part of my tuition. But I never thought I could make a career out of it. I just thought, okay, it's some side hustle, and there's no way I can actually make a real living from this. But after I decided, hey, I'm going to pursue this entrepreneur thing full on, I tried all these different ways to make money online through an online business. I tried like selling websites. I tried doing design for people, all sorts of affiliate marketing, blogging, all sorts of different things. And nothing really clicked until I started doing some of the inner work that I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about. And how I landed on advertising was because there's an element of science to it that a lot of people don't realize. Like, we think that advertising is just, creativity and having like, a catchy slogan or like a memorable commercial. Like we think about Super Bowl ads. And what I learned was it could be very wasteful advertising unless you're a huge company with billions of dollars to do something like that. And for the average entrepreneur with the smaller business owner, You want to be more methodical, systematic with your advertising. And I took a lot from what I learned in science and chemistry, the testing, the experimentation, the research, and found that it's the same thing. It's just applied to a different medium. Instead of figuring out, hey, how does the world work through molecules and whatnot? It's like, hey, how do we effectively promote a product or service to the right market who will buy it? So when I saw those similarities, it kind of became a game to me where I just wanted to kind of crack the code and figure out how to do it. And that's where my passion for it kind of arose.
Yeah, I can see that in terms of chemistry, lots of research, analysis, and the same with advertising. There's a lot of analytics that go in that are involved in that, aren't there?
Absolutely.
So you're incredibly successful with creating multiple eight-figure digital online businesses. So what kind of internal shifts did you have to make to allow that to happen for you to create that success?
I would say the biggest one was just my mindset around money and success in the first place. Because I grew up pretty poor with my parents, my whole entire family, we immigrated from China. So we're first generation Americans. And I remember growing up, my parents, they both had full-time jobs, just working just to pay the bills. And I never got the toys that I wanted or like the clothes. I always had hand-me-downs or thrift store stuff. And I just always felt like, we had this, I grew up in an environment of lack. And that really motivated me to change that. But I found when I was starting my business, some of the same mindset of lack and, oh, I don't deserve success and it's just not going to happen. And even things like, I can't be more successful than my dad, those were just kind of in my unconscious. And I found myself working really hard, struggling without any results for a long time.
Did you have one of the beliefs that I come across, and that certainly I had, and that's kept me stuck in my business for a very long time, was you have to work really hard to be successful.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing comes to you for free. Money doesn't grow on trees, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. So how did you overcome those beliefs?
So I tried a lot of different ways. I started with books. I think a lot of people start with personal development books. Nowadays, it's probably just YouTube videos or finding stuff online. But I just read a lot of materials on mindset, belief changing, stuff like that. And I couldn't really grasp. I understood the concepts at a logical level, but I had a hard time applying them because it just feels like there's so much momentum against you. Like for me, it was like, this is how I see the world. This has been my reality.
Yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to just believe the opposite and just like keep telling myself this is true when obviously it's not? So that was my biggest thing with, belief changing techniques and that whole idea. Like, it makes sense that our thoughts, our emotions, they create our reality because they lead to behaviors which, change what we experience. But it's just like, if there's just so much momentum, how do I actually shift that? It just felt like such a strenuous, arduous task of having to micromanage, all these thoughts and just like always being on top of things. Whereas like, I know I'm gonna, I just can control my thinking a lot. Like my mind just had a mind of its own. So that's what I struggled with. And it was really when I looked into emotions that was kind of the missing part of the puzzle for me. And basically I learned some modalities, therapeutic modalities that worked with not just thoughts, but also emotions, body sensations, to make those shifts happen more, because now there's less resistance once I was able to feel, accept a lot of the emotions that were tied to these thoughts, and basically being able to neutralize those thoughts and then take new actions and eventually build the beliefs that I wanted.
And that's where I think, because as you said, they're so ingrained. You can do the affirmations and you can do all of that. For me, that's quite a lot of hard work. And a lot of people fall down on not doing those affirmations, but what you're talking about is actually embodying something, a new belief system, so much so that it shifts the old beliefs and creates something new. And
yeah, I
and
would
this
say it's
month,
kind of like, instead of using force, or instead of going against what's already there, kind of zooming out a little bit and then going a little, I guess, meta, and then changing that entire structure, which is more efficient. And I can give examples. I know what we're talking about is really abstract.
yeah,
But like, I tried the whole, like, let me, just repeat affirmations, and every time I have a thought, like, just like reframe it. Like, I tried that. It's just so much. It's just so overwhelming. They say we have
yes,
like 6,000 thoughts a day. Like, that's just too hard.
it is. Yeah, I completely agree. I've never affirmations. There's a few that if you find the right ones, that kind of, but it's it's work, it's hard work, it's consistent. And I think a lot of us want something that goes deeper than that,
Mhm.
and which is what
Yeah.
you're talking about,
Yeah,
making those internal shifts.
right. Yeah, it's just becoming more aware of, our consciousness, what's in what our, I guess, mind content is really made of, and it's made of more than just thoughts. And becoming aware of those things, we're able to change entire beliefs a lot more easily.
Sort of talking a bit about mind-body connection.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, there's definitely a somatic element to it as well.
Yes, yeah. And those beliefs, I mean, this month is all about self-sabotage. So when we have those ingrained beliefs and we have those thoughts, that is that where you see the most when self-sabotage really shows itself.
Yeah, so ingrained thoughts, I wouldn't say they're the root issue. Like, the thoughts have to come from somewhere. And thoughts and emotions are kind of linked together. So that the emotional part is another aspect. Same with physical sensations. Like, if I have a thought, it's emotional. There's a physical sensation behind there too, and that might be uncomfortable, and that's what's keeping the thought alive. But what creates all of those, this is a model I use at least, is something deeper called identities. We can just use that word. It's something most people can understand. And this is just what we identify as, kind of who we think we are. And it changes all the time. And we have thousands of these. Like, right now, I'm in the identity of we call it a podcast guest or a teacher. I have a goal of transmitting this information. But after this, I'm gonna go play with my daughter. And in that moment, I'm just gonna be a father. Like, I'm not gonna be a teacher or anything. So we have all these identities that we flow through our entire lives, basically, completely unconsciously most of the time, to serve a specific purpose. But sometimes those identities get stuck and they sabotage what we're trying to achieve consciously. So if I'm an entrepreneur and my goal is to build an 8-figure, 7-figure business, I'm going to have to be very focused, use some willpower, just kind of in that mode. But if I take that same identity when I'm hanging out with my wife, she's going to be upset. It's not ideal for our relationship. So being able to flow through identities and not get stuck, that's one of the keys. And it's not just roles. It's not just like, I'm a father, I'm a entrepreneur, I'm a whatever. It could be like a shy person, a confident person, an unworthy person, a proud person, whatever. There's like millions of these, infinite numbers, and they all serve some sort of purpose. And a lot of times in our childhood or earlier on, we took a quote unquote negative identity that was useful at the time, but now it's no longer useful, but we just keep defaulting to that one completely unconsciously, and it clashes with our conscious goals. So that's the model that I use to look at all of these. And once you're able to change those unconscious identities, then all the beliefs, the emotions, all those things, they kind of change by themselves instead of having to attack them one by one.
Yeah, because that's also hard work as well, isn't it? When you approach one issue at a time, whereas what you're doing with your model is you're changing hundreds of beliefs, thousands of beliefs in one fell swoop.
At the root cause level, yes.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. And we have a lot of listeners that are spiritual, that have spiritual businesses, that are service-based, conscious businesses. What have you found, or what do you think that spiritual people are inclined to struggle with when they're running a business or growing their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of them is just money.
Mhm.
There's this belief that spirituality and money are kind of dualities, that, if I'm spiritual, that, my purpose is to serve others. That's different than the identity of a business person who wants to make profit and likes money. I feel like that can be a clash a lot of times. Um, and yeah, and that's probably, I would say that's the biggest one. But there's also spiritual teachers. Like, I work with a lot of experts who they really don't care about the money side of things. Like, they're not making like a ton of money, but they always have money when they need it. And it's just not like, it kind of just flows. It's not really a problem for them. And to me, that shows they fully integrated spirituality and money. But I think for some, people in the service who are very service based, they can have some inner conflicts there where they feel like guilty about asking for money, about raising their prices, or even like wanting more, because they feel like that's in conflict with their spiritual beliefs, or who they are.
And that's kind of the belief, again, money mindset, the belief that money is corrupt, or it's greedy to have money, or it's dirty, or I remember growing up, one of the beliefs that I grew up with was money. If someone's got a lot of money that they weren't born with, then they must have done something wrong to have that money.
Yeah.
And I've met many spiritual healers, and as you said, people that are in service, and because they believe that they have a gift or an ability, that they shouldn't be, either it should be free, or they shouldn't be charging what other people are saying. You know what, you need to be charging this, because you need to have, if you want to be able to help, if you want to help more people and be of more assistance, then it's, at the end of the day, it's a business.
Right.
And if I think you do more damage by not charging not what you're worth, but what that service is worth. Because I think a lot of people get tied up in, well, that whole I'm not worthy. But it's not you that's worthy or unworthy. It's the service that you're providing and what that brings to somebody else, isn't it?
Just exchange of value.
Yeah.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head. And I think beyond that, it's also a hindrance to spiritual development, because people have different definitions of what spirituality means. To me, spiritual development means de-identification, meaning that if I'm, a lot of people, they're very material, they think they're physical, their physical body, their mind, that's who they are. And spirituality is like peeling the layers back and basically saying, hey, I'm more than my body, I'm more than my mind, I'm more than my ego, I'm this, I'm that. But I think where people can get kind of trapped is having the identity of a spiritual person. It's like, it's another thing the ego can latch onto. And then that conflict, like, as a spiritual person, I can't also be a six-figure CEO or whatever. And it's about, yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead, Tony.
I was just going to say, if spirituality is really about just de-identification with all identities, at least that's my definition of spiritual development, is just, going further and further and further, then we shouldn't stop at, I'm a spiritual person. That's not the end of our development. And also if, the idea of oneness, the ultimate goal of, like unity is oneness, that includes money as well, because money is part of the material universe. So that's my viewpoint on things.
Yeah, and I think and I think that is shifting, because I'm in a lot of circles of spiritual people, but they're also very successful spiritual entrepreneurs. Their business is based on a spiritual service, or they're helping other women that are spiritual to grow their business. And that is shifting, and it is changing. And people are seeing money as energy rather than,
Yeah.
it is energy. Something that I heard and about, it's like treating money like energy and treating it like a best friend. Whether it's with you or not, you treat, because we can be quite, and I totally understand with the money mindset thing, if you have negative beliefs around money, and then it's not going to flow to you, is it? Because you're putting up that barrier.
Yeah, to me, I feel like personally, I had more attachment towards money. I had over importance on it because I grew up with a lack of it. Like there's this attachment, and some of the beliefs I had was like money equals security. So I overvalued it. And now I completely agree with you. I kind of see money the same way. It's very neutral energy where you can use it for good, you can use it for evil, doesn't really matter. And there's also rules of how the energy flows. Like money doesn't care if you're like moral or immoral. People do, they don't do the most spiritual things, the most conscious things, and they can still earn money. It's really just based on value exchange. Like that's the fundamental rule. Like, can you create something of value that people want to give you money for? It's very simple. But we have all these different beliefs, memories, feelings, and attitudes that kind of prevent us from seeing this rule. And once we're able to just kind of see how it is, it's like, okay, I just need to make myself or my service or product as valuable as possible to the people that want to buy it, so they give me money. And it's just, to me, it's that simple. Obviously, the execution is a lot more difficult, but the idea is, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, there's that whole thing, isn't it, where you really attach to an outcome, so much so that you become so focused on it, then you're not leaving room for it to flow into your realm, into your path. And that's difficult as well, isn't it? As you said, you were really attached to, or you really focused on, money was sort of a very important part because of the lack that you had when you were growing up. So did you notice a difference when you let go of that it was a lot easier, it came to you a lot easier? Or it wasn't so much hard work?
It's hard for me to say like exactly yes or no. Like I've had like a lot of instances where like money just came to me all of a sudden. I wasn't even thinking about it. Also times where I tried really hard and I got money. So I don't want to say there's like a direct correlation, but I will say that not putting the emphasis on money as much, or just like making it, I don't want to say insignificant, but just making it like anything else in my life. It's important, but I'm not going to focus like my entire I'm not going to put over importance on it. It's helping me become a lot more fulfilled in other areas of my life. It's just, for my own inner peace and inner fulfillment, like it's changed everything. And to me, that's what success is. It's my new definition of success. Before, was very material. I needed certain things, and my bank account had to be a certain way, and my life had to be a certain way, otherwise I wouldn't feel successful. Now it's just like, am I happy or not? And not placing that over importance on money definitely contributes to my overall happiness.
Yeah, and I love that as well, that we do focus a lot on what success is, and it could be the job, the car, the house, the money that you're earning. And I think when we look at happiness as when we're most successful, when we feel fulfilled and we feel happy, everything else sort of falls away, and life becomes a lot easier and a lot more fun and more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think that's like just this inner sense of fulfillment, like you're fulfilling your purpose when you're doing something that kind of puts you in that state.
It just feels really expansive, doesn't it, when you're in that mode versus need to have this, need to have that.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any ways that you see clients, any other ways that you see clients self-sabotaging themselves other than around money?
Yeah, I think a big thing is procrastination for people. And I think with procrastination, it's one of the ways people kind of keep themselves trapped is they're resisting it too much. Like they feel bad about procrastinating. They feel guilty. They beat themselves up. They're just like, they just feel crappy after they procrastinate, after they, don't follow through on something that they wanted to do. And I see that as something that perpetuates procrastination rather than let someone let go of it. Because those feelings make you feel worse, and now you really don't want to do whatever you need to do. Now you just want to like go binge Netflix or eat Cheetos or like clean or read something to make you feel productive. But if you're so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you procrastinate, if you mess up, the best solution is not to kind of like beat yourself up or try to use more willpower and grind even harder, but just completely accept that, completely give yourself self-love, compassion, accept yourself. Also you can do some thinking on what you could do better. But the most important thing is just accepting that it already happened. There's no need to keep dwelling your energy on it. And, of course, it's easier said than done, but that's one of the keys to breaking that cycle.
Yeah, it's a choice point, isn't it? Where do I want to put my energy? Do I want to put my energy into judging my self-judgment, beating myself up, or do I actually want to shift this energy and do something about it? And like you say, be gentle with myself and be more compassionate, because we have good days and we have bad days, right?
Absolutely.
and sometimes, and something that we spoke about in the procrastination theme was about sometimes the timing isn't right for that and you're not in alignment with it right now. So how do I get into alignment? What do I need to do to move their energy on that, or to is there something else actually? Is it a redirect? Is there something else I need to do instead?
Right. Yeah. For me, that was like, I feel like it's still something I'm learning right now, that I'm cultivating right now, is just, I had this very like high performance mindset for a while. And then once I got into more spiritual development, I like went the opposite end of the spectrum. It was just like, oh, just all let it all flow, and like I'm not gonna try and all that. And now it's kind of like I realize it's a balance. It's knowing when you need to like go hard and push, and when you just sit back and let things come to you, or just take a break and just trust. So it's about that balance. It's I don't think it's right to say one way or the other way is the right way. It really depends on where you're at in that particular moment. Maybe you do need to push harder, or maybe you need to just take a step back.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to offer our audience, our listeners, a couple of tips around either noticing when you're self-sabotaging, or how to go beyond self-sabotage, how to shift that energy, that belief system? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so there's very specific processes that I use in my own coaching. I don't have time to like break them down, but I'll give the general structure because I think it's so applicable. And it's basically recognizing the unconscious goals, making the unconscious conscious. Because once you're able to do that, you just have so much more clarity, and things just kind of click for you, and that emotional charge is released. And what I mean by that is just realizing whenever you feel like whenever you feel this emotional charge, you feel this resistance, like something's not how you want it to be and you're upset. Just asking yourself, what identity am I in right now that's creating this tension? And then going a little further and asking, what is the goal? Like, what do I want from that identity? Like, what is the purpose of that? And just keep like cycling through that. There might be many layers, but just through that process of making those unconscious goals conscious, that's what's going to allow you to kind of just release this problem and see it with a lot more clarity and move past it and break those patterns. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, he said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it's going to direct our life, and we're just going to call it fate. And I think that's the most important psychological principle that everyone should know, is that we do have free will. We are conscious beings that can make decisions, but we still have an unconscious that is very that drives our behaviors. And instead of resisting it and suppressing it and just like trying to fight it, just allow it to arise and allow it to release it, because that's how you make forward progress.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've used that's come up a few times recently in the last few weeks, becoming conscious of the unconscious. And when we are in that phase, I find writing those sorts of things down really helpful as well. Do you encourage that? You encourage that with your clients to write things down, to bring it to the light, isn't it?
Yeah, I think writing is super powerful. And the basis of a lot of the most effective therapeutic processes, let's say EMDR for trauma, or EFT or somatic release therapy, they kind of all have a similar framework in that you trigger the negative reaction, the negative memory or the negative thought or whatever, and then you allow yourself to feel what comes up. And in a lot of cases, you verbalize it. So it's really just that process. I don't think there's anything amazing about each of these individual therapies that make it stand out, or that make it work, other than the fact that you're just kind of releasing unconscious mind content by making it conscious, like sensations, thoughts, emotions that you didn't want to feel before, that you were trying to stuff down, but you're allowing yourself to feel. You fully feel it. It's uncomfortable for a couple seconds, and then you let it go. And through cycling that's how you just overcome a lot of those unconscious patterns that were holding you back.
Excellent. So Tony, your business is Conscious Coaching.
Yes.
I didn't, my apologies, I didn't say that at the beginning. So it's Conscious Coaching. How can people get hold of you, connect with you, find out more about what you do?
Yeah, you can go to my brand new website that I built last week, tonywang.gg. The .com wasn't available, unfortunately. My name's too common, but I think I'm going to bid on that one. And anyways, go to tonywang.gg, and I have a private email list where I share tips for growing your business as a spiritual expert or any type of expert, using the latest marketing tools, or just sound copywriting and marketing principles. So if you're interested in that, just go to the website and apply to be on that list.
Okay, brilliant. And the links for Tony will be in the description below. So is there anything else you want to add before we say goodbye to our listeners?
No, I think we had a really good conversation. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Good.
Excellent. Thanks everybody for listening, and join us again next time. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. It helps us to continue bringing you really valuable content and expert guests like Tony. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.